Thank you, Mr. Himes, and thank you for sitting in the chair. We wish Chairwoman Waters a speedy recovery from COVID, and we're glad that she's getting the care she needs and taking responsibility of separating and quarantining. We wish her a speedy recovery. But I want to thank the chair for holding the hearing. As we know, the proper oversight of agency heads is necessary for Congress's intent to be fulfilled and for agencies to fulfill their responsibilities. For an office like FinCEN, which has operated under the radar screen for the last 3.5 years, appearing before us is especially significant. So, Acting Director Das, thank you for being here. Thank you for your outreach. Mr. Das, you were not head of FinCEN during the FY21 NDAA negotiations, which resulted in a rewrite of the statute that you are now implementing. But I'd like to take a moment to share with you congressional intent during those negotiations and the resulting statute and the intent of that statute. And the reason why I want to do this is because reading FinCEN's Beneficial Ownership Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, or NPRM, there seems to be quite a disconnect. Early negotiations were anything but bipartisan. For our part, Republicans' non-negotiables were clear. We wanted to limit burdens on small businesses, protect personally identifiable information as if it were tax information, and hold FinCEN accountable to the American people once a bill became law. We understood on both sides of the aisle that the stakes were too high for millions of small businesses to not get this right. So the four corners in our negotiations came to an agreement that a revised beneficial ownership regime would, number one, be easy to understand for small businesses. Number two, limit the burdens on those filing. And number three, protect civil liberties and ensure confidentiality. What resulted was a targeted statute that would focus on stopping bad actors, such as Chinese and Russian nationals, from using the financial system. At the same time, it limited the burdens of law-abiding small businesses in the process. We directed FinCEN to prevent duplicative and burdensome requirements on small businesses, including rescinding the customer due diligence rule. We directed FinCEN to report on steps it is taking to minimize reporting requirements, which will provide this committee with necessary data on SARs and CTRs and the reporting thresholds. And we asked that the new beneficial ownership data be equipped with the strongest privacy and disclosure protections for small business owners' information. FinCEN is one of the biggest data collectors in the U.S. government. Yet, how they collect, manage, and allow access to that data remains largely a mystery to Congress and, most assuredly, the public. Unfortunately, after reading FinCEN's NPRM, it is clear the agency needs a reminder of what Congress directed. The proposed rule was far too complex, overly broad, and deviated significantly from Congress's intent. My colleagues across the aisle like to advocate for greater authorities for FinCEN. I understand that. But until this office of FinCEN can show Congress it can do the job it currently has, that's not something that we should even discuss, is expanding your authorities. We have a new statute. The rules have not been implemented on that new statute. Let's get that done before we talk about new authorities. And I think that's where we are at this stage. And without objection, I'd like to submit for the record my letter with Ranking Member Lukemeyer outlining our disappointment and concerns with the beneficial ownership NPRM. Thank you. Director Das, it's fair to say that FinCEN has too many responsibilities and doesn't do any of them as well as they could. I'm hopeful for your leadership at FinCEN that we can right some of these huge challenges for the agency and get it right for the American people. And I look forward to working with you to ensure that our anti-money laundering programs are targeted and effective and at the same time protect Americans' civil liberties. With that, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I yield back.